So today's Old Testament lesson from Isaiah was written during the time of the Israelites' return from exile in Babylon. They were returning from decades of captivity and horrendous depression, horrendous conditions. This reading also reflects the joyful anticipation which we have in our other readings for Third Advent. It's also known as Gaudete Sunday, which is loosely translated from the Latin Mass. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. It is also the reason for the pink candle in the Advent wreath. Isaiah envisions a time of a reversal of fortunes, if you will, when the oppressed and the poor will experience liberation and prosperity. Jesus also uses these same words from Isaiah to describe his call in the 4th chapter of Luke. We all know these words, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." Isaiah and Jesus are speaking to the poor, the lowly, the bottom of the pile, if you will, the dredges of society. And the good news for all these people is simple. Freedom from poverty, freedom from starvation, homelessness, sickness, illiteracy, dehumanization, and violence. The great Lutheran pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was captured by the Nazis and was executed 10 days before the victory of the Second World War, wrote a letter in 1943, just before Christmas. And he says in that letter, "Life in a prison cell reminds me a great deal of Advent. One waits and hopes and putters around, but in the end, what we do is of little consequence. The door is shut, and it can only be opened from the outside." The message of Advent is that indeed the door is shut, and it can only be opened from the outside. And the good news here is that God is doing something about that. God is going to open up that door for us. God is in the process of bringing about an ultimate and decisive answer for all creation. The rescue mission we eagerly await is already underway. The invasion, if you will, is happening. And John is announcing it. John is preparing the way. He is witnessing to the light of all things new that God is bringing into the world, his Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. We heard about John last week, and although we are hearing about John this week, we are hearing a totally different John. The first thing is that he is not called the Baptist, as in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. A Christmas pageant based on the Gospel of John would be a one-act play with one line. "And the Word became flesh and lived among us. As we have seen his glory, the glory as a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth." In John, there is no birth narrative. There is no stable. There is no star. There are no wise men. There is only one character, John. And he will not even tell the authorities who he is. He will only tell the authorities who he is not. He is a witness, which in Greek is martyrion, the word where the root of which we get our word martyr from. John has seen the light, and nothing will stop him from proclaiming this fact, or from preparing the world for the light by baptizing those who come to him. John is not an independent actor. He belongs entirely to Christ. He is only there to collect and then reflect the light that falls upon him through Jesus. And it is obvious that John does not mind being a supporting actor, if you will. And there is another Advent character who feels the same way. Jesus' mother. Mary's song, we said it this morning in place of the psalm. We know it as the Magnificat. John the Baptist character in the fourth gospel does exactly the same. That is why we read the Magnificat on this third Sunday of Advent. All of us who come here to worship are witnesses, which makes us martyrs as well. And we become martyrs when we turn from a preoccupation with ourselves, when we witness to turn to Christ and to our brothers and sisters as we reflect the light of Christ like John did many thousands of years ago. Just like my little exercise with the young people this morning of reflecting that light, that we must face towards the light, reflect the light, not turning our backs or letting anything get in the way. For when we reflect the light, we can take comfort in knowing that we are doing what God has called us to do. We are reflecting light out into the world. My daughter, Emma, is a big Star Wars fan, and I'm sort of a Star Wars fan, but not a big Star Wars fan. And so we went to see The Last Jedi on Friday. And for some reason, The Last Jedi hit me much more powerfully than any of the other ones about the lightness and the darkness. I mean, as we all know, that's really what the whole Star Wars series is about, light and dark. And this one was really, really powerful because for whatever reason it hit me because the rebellion in The Last Jedi is almost wiped out. And there's less people left in the rebellion than's in this room. And yet through the presence of Leia, Luke, and even a guest appearance from Yoda, we are reminded through their actions and through their persistence and through their love of their compatriots that redirecting light, focusing light, redirecting that light out into the world is what's important. And what we also see is that those who follow them, Finn and Rose and Rey, are there to do the exact same thing. And that's us. That's us. That's who we are. We're called to be here and reflect that light, just like they did. That's what we're here to do, to reflect the light, witness and testify to the light, and rejoice to the presence of the light, even when it is so hard to find. We are to rejoice in it because we know it's there and we know that our job is to just collect it and reflect it. There's a prayer by John Bailey. And here's what the prayer says. O light that never fades, as the light of day now streams through these windows and floods this room, so let me be open to you, the windows of my heart, that all my life may be filled by the radiance of your presence. Let there be nothing within me to darken the brightness of the day. Let there be nothing within me to darken the brightness of the day. Wow, that's just a good one-line prayer we could start off all our days with, isn't it? Civil rights leader Howard Thurman described this process that John was talking about in the way we are to know Jesus Christ when he spoke of Advent and Christmas as seasons of hope. Howard wrote, "When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star of the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back in the fields with their flocks, the work begins to find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among people, to make music in the heart.